Sometimes, really, over the years, it's been said to those who come, you have to make God real. But this can only be said to those who have dropped all mind concepts of what God is, to realize that there is no such thing as God. So it can be asked, what does it mean, make God real? So there's a reminder of a story. The story in the far-off land of Benares, where a man called Hamza worked his way up through the ranks of those who served the emperor of the day to a position where he was an advisor, in fact a roving ambassador for the emperor. But one day the emperor sent Hamza on an ambassadorial mission to visit a kingdom far away. So when Hamza arrived there, of course, he was treated with the graciousness that any ambassador is given, and he was feted and feasted over some days. He brought gifts from his own emperor to the king of that realm. But it was time for him to return to Benares, so he went to the king of that realm to say farewell and give the usual obeisances. But this king was known to be somewhat of a trickster, and of course it was expected that a gift would be given to bring back to his emperor. So when Hamza was making his final salutations to the king said, well, wait, there is a gift that I want you to take back to your emperor. Well, Hamza was immediately in trepidation because he knew that this king was somewhat of a wily fellow, so to speak. So the king snapped his fingers and servants came out leading on a golden chain a magnificent she-leopard. Well, Hamza's heart dropped. How was he going to take this creature back overland to Benares? Well, what could he do? He had to accept the gift graciously and make his leave. So the beautiful she-leopard, when the chain was exchanged and put in his hand, followed him very quietly, and he left the king's palace and made his journey overland on his way back to Benares. But on the way he had to find a resting place for the night. So he came to an inn. Well, when the innkeeper saw him leading this huge creature, he said, "I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, but you can't. All of our patrons would be too afraid of this creature. You cannot bring him into my inn." But the innkeeper said, "Well, I do have a cabin out behind the inn that you could have for the night, but I would have to warn you that it's inhabited by a demon. He breaks all the crockery and makes great noises in the middle of the night." But Hamza was tired. He said he could sleep anywhere. So he was led to the cabin, and he and the great leopard settled down for the night. But in the middle of the night there was a great crashing of the door, and Hamza woke with a start to see this huge, horrible, monstrous thing enter the doorway, dragging along with it the carcass of a goat that it had eaten. And of course the great leopard awoke And even though she had been chained to the end of the bed in which Hamza slept, the chain was broken, and the leopard leapt upon the monstrous creature, the dev, had come in the door. Well, a great fight ensued. One moment the dev was on top, and the next minute it was the leopard. And finally, the leopard got the better of the demon, and the demon went flying out the door. Well, Hamza and the leopard settled down to a good night's sleep, and the next morning the innkeeper came along to inquire how had been their rest, and Hamza explained what had happened. He said, "Well, you'll never see that demon again. My leopard has taken care of it." So the innkeeper gave them many gifts of sweetmeats and yogurt to take on their journeys. There was still a long way to go, and Hamza set off with the leopard. Well, that night, of course, they still hadn't reached the shores of the river that they had to cross to get back. So they had to take comfort in a cave, and they settled down for the night. But then, all of a sudden, again, in the middle of the night, there was great noises and screechings and roarings, and both Hamza and the leopard woke up to find that the dev had come back, screaming, "You sent me out of the house and abode that I had been comfortably living for so many years. Now I'm going to devour you." Well, of course, the leopard leapt on the demon again and again. A great fight ensued until finally the leopard won the day, and the dev flew off, never to be seen again. Well, Hamza and the leopard's journey was quite easy after that, and they finally arrived at the gates of the city of Benares to great fanfare. But of course, when Hamza came in the gate with this great leopard, people went flying everywhere of this huge creature. But it followed very quietly behind Hamza as he entered the palace and presented himself to his emperor, and stated that the journey had gone well, and this was a gift from the king of that kingdom. "Well," said the emperor, I don't want it. I've just had a gift from the king of another realm of two lions. So I'd have no place in my palace for a leopard." And with that, the servants walked out with the two lions on chain, and of course there was a great confrontation between the leopards and the lions. And the emperor said, you see, I cannot keep this leopard. It's yours. Take it. So Hamza went off, leading the leopard behind him, and he finally was able to arrive back at his abode, and relaxing on his lounge with his servants bringing him sherbets to drink, and feeling very much at ease, the great leopard sat at his feet very quietly. Well, as he was sipping his sherbet and feeling the comfort of his home, he looked down at the great beast, and who looked up at him with its huge almond eyes, and he said, "You've been my trusted and faithful companion, fearless over all of these days. I've come to love you, and if you were a woman, I would marry you." Puff! Smoke. And there stood beside Hamza the most glorious creature, long black hair flowing down her back, huge green almond eyes, and dressed in a satin-spotted gown. And she said, "I was bewitched at a very young age and have been waiting for the moment when someone came to acknowledge and love me." So we know the end of the story. They were wedded, spent many years in married bliss. How does this tell us the answer to making God real? What does this leopard represent for us? Could it be that this is what needs to be acknowledged in us? What bewitched us at an early age to allow doubts and fears and the demons of mind to enter? What has been our faithful, trusted, fearless companion? What is it that's arisen in us from time to time to recognize this fearlessness? The moments when truth blurted out, the moment when we jumped over the bale of hay because we saw a spider and didn't know how we did it. There are moments that we remember, isn't it? And we can thread them like the story the other day, like the gems. So what is this thread? What is this leopard? Could it be related to the story? Acknowledging that having walked the path of dropping, erasing all the mind concepts that put us outside, what could it be? What is this leopard for us?
Well, it's like the leopard for us is that fearless part, that beautiful wholeness who we really are.
That's right.
That we kind of have ignored or pretend isn't there or whatever beforehand.
Exactly.
And then once we acknowledge who we really are,
Exactly.
then we know that really we are, that there's no such thing as God, because everything.
That's right. And we can see, we know with these beautiful nuns who go into the convent to be prepared to be wedded to Christ. What does this marriage symbolize? We can recognize all of that, isn't it? So to acknowledge it, isn't that making God real? To acknowledge it. It's been there all along, the thread. It doesn't go away. It's real. So then we can say, yes, God is real.
Yeah.
And when we say it, it's a truth that has enormous power. Untold power. Thank you, thank you.